Welcome to the Wake Up Call podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Hopkins. By day, I work in corporate, but I have an obsession with all things personal development. So I became a life coach and started this podcast as a way to help others break free from living a life that's good on the outside and wake up to the one they actually want. When I got to my most uncertain place, all I wanted was someone to say, "Hey, Alicia, you're a little off course and this is what you need to do." That's what I want to be for you. This podcast is a place where I want to share my experiences and provide you with community, knowledge, and inspiration to make change in your life. Sometimes we get a little lost and need help course correcting. If this sounds like you, you're in the right place. Let this be your wake-up call. Now let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Wake Up Call podcast. This is your host, Alicia Hopkins. And, today's episode is a little bit of life updates, right? I was thinking about how would I even title this? And I think it's just real life shit is what I'm going to title it. So I have been in a busy season lately, and I can absolutely relate to the feeling of burnout, right? I know now that what brought me to, a place I was at with my anxiety a few years ago is a result of burnout and me getting overcommitted, not prioritizing rest, recovery, the things that kind of nourish yourself. I'm going to guess one or two of you out there listening can relate to that feeling, right? When everything and everyone in your life but you is coming first, right? So it's interesting is that I feel like I've got a very good grip on understanding what it is I need to do to make sure I'm taking really good care of myself, right? I have pretty solid routines in my life. I prioritize, my feel-good activities. I try to do it above all else. And what I started to notice recently is some of these feelings of burnout started to come back. And it was really weird because in my past life, I think a lot of my burnout was associated with, I was in a job I hated at one point, and I felt so much external stress in my life. And yes, all those other things were taking place. I wasn't properly prioritizing myself. But what's been different about this season is a lot of the things I'm doing in my life actually really fill my cup. It struck me that even when you're doing things you love, if you're not prioritizing yourself, rest, recovery, time for play, a little bit of space in your life to breathe, even too much of a good thing can take you down that path. And it's wild too, because it sort of snuck up on me. I noticed that really for the past month, my sleep has been impacted, and I made up excuses or whatever. I'm just like, okay, I need to take more melatonin tonight or something like that, right? I just dismissed all these things. I noticed that my mind was just constantly engaged. And again, it was all with things that excite me, right? I'm in a place now that I have some things going on with the podcast I'm working on. I've got my coach offering I'm working on. It's all stuff that's super exciting, right? But my mind was just constantly churning, even subconsciously. I think literally while I was sleeping, right? It's still processing everything I've been chewing on all day. I noticed in this time too that I wasn't making time for, I'll just call it non-productive things, right? Sometimes I really enjoy just sitting outside on my balcony, just, kind of taking in the great weather or, just the sights and sounds of nature, or just listening to music, or, even just reading fiction, right? Something just for fun. I noticed I wasn't making time for that. I just had this general feeling that I couldn't relax. I felt like I was on. I felt a little bit like some color was missing from my life, just sort of going through the motions a bit, a little hamster wheel can you relate to that? Like I said, the irony is that in this place that I'm in my life, I wouldn't describe anything that's going on as particularly bad or stressful. If anything, it's stuff that I really want. And I've just been constantly thinking and pushing and trying to make things happen. So it was wild when I noticed those things I just described were sneaking up on me. Most notably, just I noticed my anxiety coming back. I just noticed not feeling as energetic, right? Just really kind of dragging in a lot of areas of my life. And, as someone who I pride myself on having a lot of tools and I feel equipped, I feel like I have resources, I know what to do to take care of myself. It was pretty wild when this happened. And I have to say, this week, at the time of this recording, it'll be later when you hear this episode, but I hit a wall. I felt like I was getting sick. As I mentioned again, anxiety was coming back. I was ruminating on a lot of thoughts. I just didn't feel like myself. And in this moment this week, I felt this like what I envision, for all of you parents out there. You swoop in and you take your child out of a situation, right? Like I've had this moment this week that I felt myself swooping in and pulling myself back and being like, hold up, whoa. You've been down this path before. I'm not letting you go there again. Something's got to give, right? I had about 2 days this week, like I said, where my body just gave out on me. And it was in those moments that, I turned to journaling and tried to get reflective and thought, okay, Alicia, what do we need to do, right? And I started realizing that I've got to pull back. Even though everything I'm working on right now, I'm super excited to create, but I have too much on my plate. And if I continued at this rate, my health, my well-being was what was at cost, right? It's just been this interesting space of even too much of a good thing can be bad, right? It can be too much for us when we are pushing ourselves to limits and not allowing space for play, relaxation, just to fucking be, like chill out, right? Have you ever been in that place where it's like, even if you think you're relaxing, you're not, right? Like your body is still kind of got this like energy running through it that you feel like you're still easily activated. And so all that to say, I've gotten to a place where I think what is needed in order to get to the next level I want to is to actually pull back a little bit, right? Create some space. I have been gripping so tightly on some things in my life I'm working on that I want to happen so badly that it's ultimately showing up as forcing and pushing. So I'm entering into a space now where I'm slowing down. And I think what's going to result is it's going to allow for some space for things to actually come to me. So one of those things, and an update I wanted to bring you up to speed on, is that starting in March, the podcast is going to go to bi-weekly episodes. I don't know that it's going to be a forever thing, but as I've shared with you, I'm working on a coach offering that will be launching in March. And I just am in a place that there's too many things on my plate and some things have got to come off, right? And it's not an easy decision, right? And I'll be totally honest. There was even a little bit of ego at play that I thought, oh my God, what are people going to think? Like she doesn't have ideas anymore. And it doesn't really matter what anyone thinks, right? Because I know what I'm doing is actually for the betterment of myself. And when I am operating at my best, right, the things I bring forward will be at their best. I believe that this decision to pull back from the podcast a little bit right now is actually going to benefit you in the fact of the episodes that are going to come out are going to be very powerful and potent. I'm going to have a little bit more time, right? It's an interesting thing. I love the podcast, but when you're producing them every week on top of full-time job, on top of, side gig stuff, I found myself getting to a place where I'm creating just to create, and I never want this podcast to be about that. So I actually feel really excited to move to a bi-weekly schedule for a little bit and just see what happens, right? The next one will come out in 2 weeks on March 14th. And like I said, I'll be on a bi-weekly schedule for a little bit. I'm very excited for this change, and I think it's going to allow me to prioritize myself first and foremost. I think it's going to allow for a little bit more fun to enter into my life, that I feel like I'm participating in it again. Can you relate to that when you feel like your plate is so fucking overloaded that you're kind of existing rather than living and, being a participant in your own life. So I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited for the things that are coming around my coaching offering. I can't wait to continue to share more about that. And I'm just excited to enter into a space. It's a little bit of an unknown and trusting, right? But what I know to be true is that when you are energetically in a place where you're feeling your best, that's often where your best work comes from. So the things I wanted to share with you today, outside of just the updates around what's going on with the podcast schedule and things like that, is just, are you in need of a swoop, that parental swoop in your own life, right? Are you overloaded, even with good things, right? Like things that you want to be doing. Are you doing too much at the expense of your own well-being, right? And if you are, I hope that this will be, your friendly little nudge from, Coach Alicia here, just saying, prioritize yourself, right? Those things that you want so badly are coming. But you forcing and pushing won't make it happen any sooner. And in fact, it might even be compromising it altogether, right? So first and foremost, always prioritize yourself. If you're finding yourself in that place where your days are feeling more like existing, they're very mundane, ask yourself, where are you overloaded? Can you prioritize the things that need to get done? And what are the things that need to come off your plate for a while? And even just saying no to things doesn't have to be a forever thing, but give yourself some space, right? And see what might enter into your life when you are feeling your best, you are calm, you are relaxed, and you're not burnt to a fucking crisp, right? So even if you, like me, are someone that you feel like you've come out of a place, like you've done all the work to get to a really good place, just know it can creep up on you again. I think these tools we learn to take better care of ourselves, you're always going to need to come back to them, right? So that's what I've got for you today. I wanted to catch you up. I wanted to make sure that above all things, you are prioritizing yourself. During this time when the podcast is going to come out a little less frequently, I'd love for you to connect with me on social. You can find me on Instagram at Alicia D. Hopkins. Catch up on episodes that maybe you haven't listened to yet, or even re-listen to your favorite ones. So I'm really excited. I can't wait to connect with you on March 14th on the new bi-weekly schedule. And I just appreciate y'all, as always, for tuning in each week. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Wake Up Call podcast. If you liked what you heard today, I would love for you to subscribe and leave a review. It takes just a few minutes and does wonders for helping other people find the podcast. If you want to connect outside of the podcast, you can do so by following at Alicia D. Hopkins on Instagram. And if you really liked the episode you just listened to, do me a favor. Would you screenshot the episode and tag me? I would love to see what's resonating with you. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope today's episode helped you to see that you can wake up to the change that's possible in your life.